Thanks for coming on, Marwan. This is the Karen Mitches podcast, and I've got Toronto comedian Marwan Alshafei.
You got it.
Nice. How's it going?
It's going good. It's currently Canada Day. It's July 1st. A lot of people are outside having fun with their families, and we're here in your apartment.
Inside.
So that's great.
We've got the sun, so
Yes.
that's not too bad. But yeah, did you do anything Canada Day oriented earlier? Or?
No, the most Canada Day thing I've done is I went to Shoppers Drug Mart. I got some soap bars because I ran out. Irish Springs, those were great. And then I went back home and I started doing some joke writing. And here I am, pretty much.
I feel like Shoppers Drug Mart is very Canadian. Like it's taking over all of Canada.
I think so too. It's when they first gave me the Canadian passport, it was on the slideshow. So I think it's pretty Canadian.
I feel like in Toronto, anytime you see like a really cool storefront being put together and you're like, oh, I wonder what this will be, it's just a Shoppers.
Yeah, pretty much. It can be disappointing. Or if it's a franchise, it's disappointing. When it's something brand new, like on Yonge Street, they opened up a Milestones, and I was like,
yeah,
we have that.
We have that.
It's not that exciting.
Okay, one thing I did get excited for Shake Shack.
Yes, me too.
Because it's new to the country.
Yes.
And like it's really good.
It's delicious. I went 4 days ago with a friend. It's delicious.
And I'm vegetarian, so oftentimes the veggie burger on a menu isn't exciting. It's just something they had to put in. But Shake Shack has a veggie burger. It's like the shroom burger, and it's actually like very good.
Like a mushroom burger?
Yeah, it's a mushroom burger, and it's deep fried, and then it has like really gooey cheese on it. It's just very good.
Okay, I've never tried that. I usually just go for the meat thing.
Yeah.
I've never tried like a veggie burger. I don't know what they taste like, if they taste bad or good.
Like I feel like in general, maybe Shake Shack's shroom burger is the only one worth trying. For interest's sake, you might want to check out the Beyond or the Impossible, because they do actually simulate beef pretty well. So
That's the one that I heard about. The Impossible Burger, Beyond Burger. Those are supposed to be like very meat-like. But then it's like if you're eating something that's kind of like meat, but it's not really meat, I guess. And it's supposed to make you feel better that it's like technically you're still vegetarian. Is that the whole thing?
like I think you want to not eat an animal, but then you still want to like satisfy cravings.
Right. Okay. That makes perfect sense. Okay. I'm Arab, and I don't think I'm even allowed to be vegetarian. Like, I feel like I get so much judgment from my family if I ever did. They would tell me it's haram to not eat meat.
That's amazing. So wait, you mentioned immigrating or passports. What country were you born in?
Bahrain. Have you heard of that country?
I've heard of it, but I feel like it's one of the ones where I'm like, I don't know those guys.
Small island next to Saudi Arabia, and very close to Kuwait, Dubai, that area. It's one of the good ones. Bahrain, king.
Shout out Bahrain.
Shout out to the king. My man, love that guy.
One thing I find when people have like an Arab background, I feel like sometimes they do like jokes, and I'm like, I have no sense of what the Arab world is like, because it's just Arab guys making camel jokes, and I'm like, I don't know how serious you're being.
Like camel jokes?
Yeah, like sometimes very, like I know they've gone over the top, but I'm like, okay, is there stand up in Bahrain? Like that would be something.
There's not really much stand-up. There is like one guy that does shows maybe once every 2 months, but it's like if you're doing a set once every 2 months, that's not really, you're not really a comedian, I would say. You're more like someone that like, I've done a couple of mics or shows, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't say there's much of a scene there though. Like no, it doesn't exist pretty much. Unless you count one show every 2 months as a scene, there is pretty much no scene there.
I feel like it's not just the Arab world. Like there's a lot of countries like you don't realize because you think it's like pop music, like everywhere has a music scene, but it's
Yeah.
not like that with stand up, which really shook me.
Yeah, it's crazy that like let's say you go to Ottawa, which is 5 hours away from here. There's not really much of a like there's a bit of a scene. Like you can go to some mics and some shows, but I wouldn't say you can like do what we do here.
Yeah.
Which is every night. You can pretty much go on stage every night. Like that's not, as far as I know, not much of a thing in Ottawa. Definitely not a thing in somewhere like Kingston. But if you go to Montreal, yeah, cool.
Yeah, Montreal has a really old, I guess they have a Jewish community that goes way back. So I think they actually have a really old stand-up scene.
That makes sense because I've heard really good things about Montreal in particular.
Yeah. And then I think, well, where else would it be? Like Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary. We get Edmonton people coming this way.
Yeah, that's you got
Yeah.
you got all the cities that there's any possible stand-up. I would say maybe the biggest ones are Montreal, definitely Toronto for sure, and Montreal. Maybe those are the two that are the biggest, and then everything else is kind of like Ottawa has a bit of a scene.
Yeah.
Maybe Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver. I guess Vancouver maybe it's pretty big.
I think Halifax and Winnipeg both have comedy festivals.
They have festivals, but how big is the scene though? Like,
I have no idea.
yeah, that's what I want to know. It's because
We need to go investigate.
we gotta visit, do some shows there.
We need to go on tour.
Yes, we gotta go on tour, go to Winnipeg. That's a place to be.
So you have a tour coming up.
Yeah, so this is my first tour ever. Never done anything like this before. We're doing Hamilton, Kingston, London, Guelph, Montreal, and Ottawa. So 6 cities right now. Kind of it's not like a massive, we're gonna go all over Canada, baby. We're gonna crush. Like,
Yeah.
Not yet.
We're going to get our feet wet. We're going to show up to a few places.
It's more like that.
But I'm from London, so that's my town.
Oh, really?
I'm going to get my people out to come see you.
Hey, that would be sick. That would be awesome. You know who else is from London? G
Yeah.
Gathiga, he's headlining that show.
Nice.
And I think he's gonna also bring some people.
Yeah.
So, man, that's gonna be sick.
I feel like he seems like somebody who would know how to promote.
I feel like too.
Like some people just have that knack for asking around and getting everyone riled up to come.
Yeah, and it's like if he asks me to come to his show, I'm gonna go. Like I know it's gonna be a good one.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. It's his energy is like he's hilarious. So if he's telling me, hey, you should come to a show, I'm like, okay, he's hilarious. He's not gonna ask me to come to a show if it's not funny.
Exactly.
It's almost like a reputation thing.
So, did you grow up in Toronto?
I grew up in Bahrain.
Till how old?
Till like 18.
What?
Yeah.
Why is your accent so Canadian?
Oh, thank you. I try. I crushed it in the ESL classes, by the way.
You
so
dominated.
You know. Yeah, I dominated. I got a 7 out of 10. It was surprising. You know what's funny? I'm not a good I used to be not a good listener. I've gotten a lot better now. And I got like a 6 out of 10 on the ESL class or the IELTS. I forgot what it's called. And I was like, yep, that's about right.
That's my listening skills.
Yeah, it was disappointing. But yeah, I came here, at 18, came to Ottawa first, by choice, just so you know. I don't know. I thought Ottawa was going to be Toronto.
Yeah.
Because it's the capital.
There's a couple huge mistakes people make. Like some people show up in Toronto and think they're going to get like the mountain, like they picture BC and they're like, where are the bears and the, yeah.
Yes.
Or yeah, not knowing, I guess, yeah, Ottawa's the capital of Canada, but there's not a lot happening there.
Yeah, it's a city that's got some stuff going on. But do you know Sebastian Maniscalco, the comedian? Have you heard of him? He came to Ottawa one time when I used to live there. He did an arena, crushed it, was amazing. But when he started, he was like, "So, Ottawa." And then he just waited for a little bit and we're all just laughing. And he's like, "So, what do you guys do here?" And I'm like, we ask that question as well. What do we do here? We got the Sens. I mean, I guess they got the Sens. There's
The hockey team.
Yeah, the hockey team. There's some stuff going on. Like when I used to live there, it was a bit of an adventure every day, but that was because I was there for 12 years, so I knew a lot of people. A lot of my friends were down to do stuff, whether it's doing something like just hanging, whether it's something like hanging out at a nightclub or a bar, or checking out a new restaurant, or going to sushi, or going to like a lake. Like we knew the spots to go to, but it's not at all like Toronto. Toronto's like, hey, Lady Gaga's coming.
Yeah.
Hey, Drake is gonna do his second show in the past 3 months or something. Like there's always cool stuff. Ricky Gervais is coming. There's all these big
You
comedians.
can just kind of go out any night of the week and you don't really have to know that much about the city. You'll just go find something.
Yes.
Whereas
exactly.
like if I feel like the stereotype with Ottawa, it's like everyone's a government worker with an office job and they're going to bed early.
Yeah, that.
So like you gotta like investigate and know where those few people who are out are out at.
Yeah, like you need to know the city well enough, and so many people that come there. Like me and my friends, we would hang out at the Byward Market there. That's where a lot of like the restaurants, bars, nightclubs, all that busy stuff is there. And we'll meet tourists occasionally, very occasionally. We'll see like a group of British dudes hanging out, and they look like they want to have fun.
Yeah.
They want to have fun, but they're looking around and they're asking us, where should we go? And I'm like, I don't know. I've been here for 12 years and I don't even know. So if you don't know where to go, it can be a tough, very boring city to live in.
So then you left Ottawa and made it down here to Toronto.
Yeah.
Was that because you wanted to do comedy, or?
I would say 90%, 80% was comedy. Maybe that 20% was 10 to 20% was like lifestyle. I always just, whenever I visited Toronto, it was like, oh my God, there's such a cool place. There's all these tall buildings. There's so much going on here. And I felt like my potential was sort of capped in Ottawa. Like it was like there's this barrier that I want to push through and I can't, just because of the city I was in, which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Like I do feel sorry for people that are like sort of trapped in a small town and they want to get out, but they have like all the like family, cousins, their girlfriend, boyfriend, and they're all anchors.
Yeah.
Holding them back, and they feel like they can do more.
And it's weird because you wouldn't like, I wouldn't have thought that kind of stuff mattered that much. But when I was in my late 20s, I moved to Vancouver. I wasn't doing stand up back then. And I loved this city. I was like, this is where I was always supposed to live. And I was fine that I didn't have my family out there. But then as time went on, it actually really started bothering me, because I would spend my time off and what little money I had to come home to visit. So then you can't travel abroad as well. And then my siblings started having kids, and I was like, well, like, am I just not going to know those guys? Like that's weird. And so then I remember having this dream, like, what if I could just get my parents and siblings and everybody just moved out west and we just relocate? But that's obviously pretty weird to do.
I have the exact same dream. Exact same dream. I heard, so I don't know how true it is now, but I think I heard this in a podcast or read this in a book. Kevin Hart lives in this giant house or mansion with all his family. What? Something like that.
Okay, I have his book, but I haven't read it yet.
Okay, I
These
don't.
are like, I think it's like these three. They're my Christmas books, and I
Okay.
haven't got to them yet. But yeah.
So it might be I can't make this up. It might be unless he has a different book, because I was listening to the audio book version, and I think it was that one. Might have been an interview. I heard somewhere, read somewhere that he like lives with his family. I don't know if he still does that. I want to make sure that I'm not 100% sure about this information because I'm putting it out there. In case it's true, that's what I would want it to
Yeah.
as well.
So
Like-
where is your family right now?
They're in Bahrain in the Middle East. They're about 30,000 kilometers away.
And it's your parents, siblings.
Yeah, family, siblings are there, and it's family, sibling, pretty much the whole family.
So no one came with you.
Nobody came with me. No, it's
and that's
so
18 is young to just.
so. Initially, my older brother was here initially,
Okay.
but then he left, and went back to Bahrain. And I was like, why? And he was like, because I want to be with family. And I'm like, oh, loser, like. Just, it's like, but that's because he's a human being and he's not a sociopath like me, apparently. And I'm like, oh, family, ew. And I'm like, so yeah, it's but every time I visit my family, I'm always like, man, I should visit more often.
So you basically have to make it in comedy so that you can move all those people over here.
I guess so. I need to make it so I can get everyone here, and yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal.
Do you think they'd want to come?
No,
No.
I think they like the calmness
Yeah.
of where they're from.
They're living a nice life and it's
Yeah,
good for them.
we got a really nice house. It's a beach house. It's like it's beautiful, honestly. Every time I go there, I'm like, I can't believe I left all of this
Oh no.
for an apartment next to a crackhead shelter. I'm like, are you okay, Marwan? Why are you doing this?
What was the original allure of where you were like, I'm just gonna move to Canada?
So my brother was moving here, and he wanted to go to UFT. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Like, I think I want to get out too. I want to like go to an international university. I don't want to stay back home. So I went with him to UFT. I didn't enroll in the school because I was too young. I was 16 at the time, if I remember correctly. So I just was visiting with him just to check out the school, check out the city. And I was so like in love with Toronto. I was so
Yeah.
in love with the city. I was like, I would love to be somewhere like this.
So how did you get started doing stand-up?
Yeah, so how I got started is like, I initially was so, like, a lot of my friends told me to get into stand-up, like, you should do stand-up, you should do comedy, but I was just not that into the idea of joke writing. Like, I looked into it a little bit, and I was just like, wait, you gotta write jokes from scratch? Like, that made no sense to me.
You saw it more as just something you'd come up with in a conversation, but not
Yeah.
sit down and write it.
Yeah, the idea of sitting down writing it, it was like, what? That doesn't make sense. It's more like we're all chilling, we're joking around. That was more my thing. And so because of that, I was like, okay, let me try out improv. Like, you've taken like improv before?
Yeah.
So yeah, so you get what it's like. You take improv. It's a lot of yes anding, and you do a show at the end of the class, which is cool. And I did the show at the end of the class. I did that for like a year, where I just did shows here and there. We had an improv team that I was with. We called ourselves Absolutely Incorrect, which is such a cool name. We never did anything with it, but I was just like, hey, we had a cool team together. And then we just stopped. We kind of all sort of lost interest at the same time, I think. And after that, I was like, I want to do something different. Let me maybe look into stand-up. I'm not sure, though. I'm not sure if that's my thing. Then a friend of mine wanted to do an comedy class, and he was like, "Hey, I want to do this comedy class," but he like I think he just started at the time, and I was like, like I missed my opportunity. I would have loved to start with him.
Yeah.
At the end of his class, he had to do a mic. He had to do like a show. So I was like so interested. I was so fascinated. I was like, I really want to see him. I have no interest on whether or not he does well or not. I just want to see him do his thing that he learned in this class.
Yeah.
And I was also thinking like, if he wants to start, I'm so down to start. I would love to just have someone with me. And he completely bombed.
Oh no.
He bombed so hard because he had very vulgar jokes.
Yeah.
Me and my buddy were dying. We were laughing our asses off. It was so funny to us two only out of like 25 people.
Oh
no. So that's something. But I was like, I want to do this. I was seeing him bomb. A lot of people, when I say this story, a lot of people think, oh, so you saw your friend bomb and you thought you could do better. No, I saw my friend bomb and I thought I can do this.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, I can go up, try stuff, and if it doesn't work, that's okay. I'll try something else.
Yeah.
That's how I saw it. It had nothing to do with me being better. He's actually, objectively, I think he's a much funnier person than I am, like in general. And I was just so into it. So it was a group of 3 of us. We all got together and we decided to like write jokes together, and we wanted to all try out at Yuck Yucks because we're crazy. And we didn't understand that you're supposed to do open mics first before you do a show.
Yeah.
We were like, no, our debut is at Yuck Yucks Comedy Club. So we did a bunch of jokes. We wrote a bunch of jokes together. We kept like trying to come up with different ideas. I came up with like a good 6 minutes for someone that's starting out. I thought it was a good 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Eventually, my time at Yuck Yucks came. I invited a bunch of my friends because it didn't matter to me if they see me bomb.
Yeah.
It was more like, just see me do this.
Yeah.
Like, it might be good. I kept joking about how terrible it's going to be and just laugh. That was my thing. I was like, it's going to be terrible, just laugh. And I went up, I did my first joke, and I still do the same joke today.
Yeah.
Like, even now, it's still part of my material. And I got my first big laugh.
Amazing.
And when I got my first big laugh, it was like taking heroin. Like, I was hooked. After that first laugh, I was like, oh, this is nice. Like, it felt so good. And yeah, I even talking about it makes me feel like a drug addict.
Yeah, it's a huge rush. And I think it's funny because I think a lot of us have friends who are really funny, but who won't do stand-up.
Yeah.
And then some of us who are pretty good at it weren't known amongst our friends as like the funniest person. And I think it really is like that. If you get the rush out of it, if you go on stage, you tell one joke, you love it, you'll just keep doing it, and then the practice will make you good at it. Yeah,
exactly. Like, I definitely think there's a lot of benefits to being like a funny person in general, but it's like there's a lot of funny people that won't do stand up. There's just, for whatever reason, it just doesn't vibe with them, or they just don't think that's their direction. Or maybe they've always wanted to do it and then they just never did. Jerry Seinfeld has a story about someone that he knows that is, I think he said he was like the funniest person he's ever met in high school, and then Jerry did something with stand-up, with comedy, and then his friend never did.
That must be so crazy to be Jerry Seinfeld's funny friend.
Yeah, that's crazy. Wild to me. Jerry, like,
there's no money in that.
Yeah. You're not getting paid. It's $0 salary. It's crazy. Like, even the guy that I'm telling you about that like started stand up at the same time as me, I'm like, he's so funny, he's hilarious. people from Ottawa would sometimes that come here ask me, they're like, oh, what's he doing now? Is he still doing stand up? Because he was so funny. I'm like, no, he started his own business. He's doing his own thing, which is super sick. It's just like, we're like in the arts.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I would have loved if that person kept building and crafting his art. And it sucks that he didn't, but he figured something else out that resonated with him, which is fine.
Yeah.
Once I got my first hit joke, I was killing it. That was a fucking awesome show. Like, my first show ever was sick. It was amazing. I got so much props from the comedians, from my friends. The manager of the place, which apparently doesn't give compliments, gave me a compliment at Yuck Yucks,
yeah,
which was super cool. This was the one in Ottawa, not the one in not the one in Toronto. It was the one in Ottawa. And I was like, man, this is so cool. And then the second time I did stand-up was at a mic. It was at a gay bar. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to kill, just like I did last time. Yeah. And I wouldn't say I bombed hard, but I bombed, and it wasn't...
soft bomb.
Yeah, it was a soft bomb. It wasn't great. And even after I got off stage, the host came up and was like, guys, it's his second time. Give it up for him. He tried. And I'm like, oh my God.
I remember, like, one of my first mics, I saw this, open micer, and he was trying to make a joke about Ukraine, Russia, Ukraine, and there were some Russian women in the audience who were pro-Ukraine, and he bombed. He made people feel uncomfortable, put his foot in his mouth. Then I saw him again, like a couple weeks later, and he wasn't bombing, but he wasn't, his material, I guess he was bombing. His material wasn't resonating. He wasn't like hitting it. And I kind of just thought, like, maybe this guy is just like, comedy isn't his like cup of tea.
Yeah.
And then I saw him maybe a month later, and he killed. Like, he, the audience went wild, everyone went crazy, and it was so instructive to me to understand, like, where you're at isn't where you will be, and like, really good people bomb, and people who are kind of struggling can become really good.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I remember, I've told this story to a few comedians before. Kyle Lucy is someone's very popular in our scene.
Yeah, he's like probably the biggest. He's one of the he's like, doing quite well.
Yeah, doing really well. Like, I would say, I agree, one of the biggest in the Toronto scene.
Yeah.
The first time I saw him, it was terrible. Okay, it was at the Royal Comedy Theatre. It was terrible. It was so bad, I was just like, oh, I don't want to be that guy. I was like, that was terrible. And I just thought he was just like another guy that's just trying this out.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think much of it. And I think it was my first time or my second time doing comedy in Toronto at the time. So I had no frame of reference on what is good and what is not. And the second time I saw him, it was okay. And then it was like the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, he crushed one after the other. And I was just like, my opinion of him completely changed.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought I saw him in one way, and he was so not that. And I learned, oh, okay, so he was just having a bad night.
Yeah.
And I just didn't, to me, it was like, oh, he was not a good comedian, because I just didn't know. But now that I know, it makes me kind of feel sad when one of my friends sees me for the first time and it's not a great night. I kind of feel bad. Because
they will think, unless they're somebody who goes to comedy all the time, they're just going to think that's your talent level.
Yes, exactly. And I feel bad for them, and it kind of, that it's like, you didn't get to see me shine.
Yeah.
And it sucks because you saw like a not so great side of stand-up, which is like, it's a normal side for us.
Yeah.
Because we do it.
And nowadays, if I'm watching someone failing on stage, I'm not having that much of an emotional response to it. Like, I have compassion for you, but I'm also like, happens to all of us. Like, so what?
Yeah.
But yeah, for people who don't go to comedy, it's like watching a car accident. They're just like, I can't believe that happened. Like, is that person okay?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like sometimes, like you give people the fist bumps when they
Yeah.
get off stage. Sometimes one of my friends will bomb. I'll still give them the fist bump, and sometimes they'll give one back to me, and I'm like, okay, cool. But sometimes they feel something, like they bomb, and then they feel terrible,
Yeah.
and then I'll be like, hey, you did your thing, and they'll be like, that was terrible, and I'm like, no, I know it was terrible.
I'm not saying what you did was good.
Yeah, I saw that too. Like, was
We
bad.
were all there. It was awful.
I recorded it. But it's just me being like, you did your thing, and you'll get them in literally the mic or show after this or tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
And there's people who, like, you can be working out new material and that is kind of failing, but the thing you're on to ends up working out eventually.
yeah.
You just have to mine it to find out.
Yeah, sometimes it sucks when there's a joke that people will tell me has potential, and I'm like, I just can't find it. And I feel like a shitty comedian because I'm like, I just can't find. Like, I have a joke about skydiving and how, like, I'm trying to find something about, like, a terribly reviewed skydiving spot, and something about, like, how, oh, they never show you the ones that haven't made it. They always show you the ones that made it. And there's something there. And I remember saying it a few times where, like, I would get smiles from the audience. Like, they're like, oh, that's funny. There's something really funny about that. And then the punchline is just not great. And I could feel the disappointment
Yeah.
that they're like, I feel like this could have been funny.
Yeah. Like, they're excited by the premise, but you just have to
Yes.
find the way to land it.
Exactly. And I just couldn't. I still, even today,
You got to keep working at it.
yeah. I think there's something there. Shitty reviewed skydiving spots. Them showing you ones that have made it, not the ones that have died, because, it's skydiving. I don't know, something there. That there's a bunch of jokes like that
Yeah.
where, like, do you have a joke where it's like you can't
Okay.
find
So
the right punchline or something?
I have a joke that, like, I talk about time travel, and then I mention, like, if we had people from the past here today, we'd still have slaveholders around.
Yeah.
And I've bombed on it, and then I figured out how to work it out so that it works. But it's hard to explain because it's just a heavy thing to bring up slavery.
Yeah.
Like, what I figured is some crowds just, like, handle it better, and in general I have to, like, put it behind other material because it's like you can't just, like, bounce out and be like, want to hear my slavery joke? Like, people are not, it's not making light of slavery. It's sort of saying, like, if we live really far into the future, people
Yeah.
are going to look at us the way we think of really people from the past, like, you heathens and you trash, right? So it works, but it's just like the premise involves going to this, like, heavy place. So I can't start with it. And I also have to have sort of, like, some likable material ahead of that. So you're like,
Yeah.
okay, she's not trash. She's not just, like, this bad person. Like, she's been chill for a while. We'll let her go darker. So that
Yeah.
was, like, something I had to learn, that was like, it's not just whether or not you can pull off this joke, but it's like when and in what context. Like, what do you put first?
Yeah, that's huge. Like, I have I guess I can say that, like, a pedophilia joke, and it's like, it's the same thing. I can't start with that.
Yeah.
You can't start with that. You got to be likable first.
Yeah.
Then you can get to the crazy joke after. And if they like you and you're doing well, they will laugh. If it's a good joke, they'll laugh at the pedophilia joke. But if you start with that, they'll be like, the hell's wrong with this person? Like, this is a bad comedian.
Yeah.
So maybe someone with, like, a dark mind might find it funny.
Yeah. Especially if you go to a show that's, say, like, dark comedy themed, and there's six guys in front of you telling really dark comedy, dark jokes,
Yeah.
you come up, the audience is like primed. They're in a place where like we're saying weird stuff.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Where it's like if a few people before you have done crazy jokes or like wild like ethnic or pedophilia jokes, or both, or Hitler jokes, or all of that stuff, and then you go and you do your version of that, it's like, oh, we've heard that. That's not that crazy, and you can like it can work potentially.
There's something too, like, because I did the stand-up class through Second City, and one of the things they said was like, make fun of yourself first, and then you can make fun of other people, and it gets the audience like, it lets them know you know how to laugh at yourself, so then they let you laugh at other stuff.
That makes so much sense. I didn't even hear about that. That makes so much sense, because my first few jokes when I'm doing like an actual show usually are self-deprecating.
Yeah.
And because like I have jokes about so many other topics, and some of them are like the controversial, like a pedophilia joke or something like that, but I put myself down in the beginning. I self-deprecate.
Yeah.
And I find, like starting off with something self-deprecating, just so that just because I'm stage, I'm not better than you.
Yeah.
We're just joking around.
And some people, like, the bulk of their comedy is kind of like they're going through their life and their mistakes and telling you like, oh, I messed this up. And those are the most likable comedians. It's not like a friendliness necessarily, but it's like you trust them because you're like, oh, like he or she can make fun of themselves. And like I don't think I thought about that before like I started doing stand-up, like, and like learned about it.
I haven't even thought about that either until now. Like,
yeah.
Until you like.
But now you'll notice it.
Yeah, it was always there, like that mindset of like, I guess I'll do self-deprecating to start off, just to show that I can joke around about myself. But I never put it in that context, which makes so much more sense. Like to start off that way, to start off in a way that like, hey, let me just put myself down, and in a way that's like, I don't want to put I have a joke that's like oh, I'm Arab, I like to get in front of large crowds and bomb. And, and it's, I like it, but I did it a bunch of times, and I find people are like, they feel sorry for me.
Oh.
And I'm like, no, it's just a joke. Like, I'm just making a joke. And I don't know if I would do it now, if I would get the same reaction. I'm interested to know if like maybe I've gotten more confident on stage. They might see me differently. They're like, oh, okay, he's just joking.
Yeah.
Or they might still feel sorry and be like, no, it's fun. You're funny. And I'm like,
okay, like I've never thought this while watching you, but I remember I'm watching a comedian who's overweight, and he was doing a lot of stuff about that. And I don't even know like the kind of facts of it. I just remember being like, I want him to like himself more. And I don't even know if he has any self-esteem issues. It was just like the way he was going about it felt like maybe he was down on himself, and I didn't want to be laughing at him. So it was like, there's a technique where...
Yeah. That's interesting, actually.
But the Arab thing too, like, do other Arab people ever get mad at you if you make a joke about
like
terrorism or anything? Like,
so far, no. I haven't had anyone that have said anything to me so far.
Yeah.
I can see potentially maybe if you just do this for long enough, someone's gonna come up to you at some point.
Yeah.
But I feel like I make it pretty clear that it's in the context of stand-up, and it's like I'm from that part of the world, so I'm trying to poke at the cultural parts of it, about jokes about Islam, jokes about like 4 wives and all that stuff. So I would like to think I'm coming from a place of, oh, he's educated, he's gets it.
Yeah.
But I can also still see some people being sensitive no matter what. And maybe for those people, it's just like maybe Arab comedy is not for you.
Yeah.
Like you're Arab yourself, but maybe you can't really vibe with people that make fun of that culture too much.
Yeah.
Maybe you're more into like more, I don't know, PC stuff or lighter material.
Yeah.
Maybe
Which
more
is
for you.
fine. Like
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So it's some people just aren't like. Someone said this at one point, that it's like not every room needs to allow every type of joke.
Yeah.
So let's say you make a controversial Ukraine Russia joke. It's like there might be rooms out there that literally just ban those kind of jokes. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, it is kind of odd that it's like, okay, it's stand up though. It's like the way they want to do their rooms is they just don't want those controversial stuff. And
Yeah.
they just want the simple dick jokes about work, jokes
Yeah.
about dating, and that's it. That they don't want anything beyond that. I think that's fine. It would suck if most rooms were like that.
Yeah.
That's when it would be shitty. But as long as it's like, okay, some rooms are like that, okay, cool, I might just avoid certain topics in that room, or I might just like avoid the room entirely if I'm like, oh, but I really want to do this new joke about my culture and they might not vibe with that or something. And I think that's fine. That's,
Yeah. And there's certain times like you're doing a mic in a restaurant. So you can't be like telling
Yeah.
like your most vulgar sex joke, because people are literally eating and the
Yeah.
restaurant is catering to their clients, not to like people who came to hear the edgiest comedy. So I respect that.
Yeah, like I remember I was at Freetown's Cafe and there was a kid. There was like a 12, 13-year-old kid
Yeah.
while I was doing stand-up. I was scratching off so many
Oh
jokes.
no. The thing though, if he's 12 or 13, like those were his jokes, you know?
Yes. Yeah, they would have loved that. But the parents were there as well.
Yeah.
And the
yeah.
parents wouldn't have, like the 12, 13-year-old doesn't care. It's more so the parents that think, oh, this is too much for my son. And it's like, your son has heard worse.
Yeah.
But you want to maintain this innocence, which is fine. I understand that. And after the second joke, they took the kid and didn't leave the restaurant. They just went to the back
Yeah.
until I was done. Then they brought the kid back. So I was like, okay, that's respectable. They didn't leave from a, he's so bad, we're leaving.
Yeah.
It's more like, we got to protect the kid. And I'm like, that's fine. Like, I understand that. So, but I did try to dump down my jokes.
Yeah.
I guess I just wasn't dumped down enough. So that's why they were like, okay, we should like take the kid and go somewhere else.
Yeah. Did you have any comedian that you were obsessed with?
A comedian that I was obsessed with. I
That
mean,
like got you interested in stand up, or
someone that got me interested wasn't even, I don't know if he is a stand-up I guess he has done shows. He Conan O'Brien.
yeah.
I used to watch him every single night, like with my dad for
Yeah.
so long, for years. And I was like, I want to do what he's doing. Like, he's doing the dancing thing, and I forgot what the chicken dance or something is called.
My obsession was with Letterman, but it's basically, yeah, like I get that.
Yeah, like Leno, Letterman, Conan, like those guys, they were just so inspirational to me with comedy that I'm like, I want to do what they're doing. But eventually I kind of found my way into stand-up. But that was like, when I see Conan doing his thing with the monologue, that's how
Yeah.
he starts the show, the monologue. I'm like, I want to do that. And he's basically doing stand-up. It's all pre-written and stuff, which is the same thing. So yeah, I guess that's what attracted me to what he was doing. And also, he's like one of the funniest people ever. So
He is really, really funny. There was this bit on Letterman where he did this thing where he would get these two guys to walk around New York City, and he would talk in their ear in like an earpiece, and then they
Yeah.
would just repeat everything he said. And I remember I watched that. I was probably like, you know, like 12 or 13 years old, and I was
Yeah.
just like, this is the best adult in the whole world.
he's just getting them to say crazy
Just saying
stuff.
like crap that made no sense. Like, it was fairly absurdist.
Yeah.
It was kind of rude, but it didn't rely on like being vulgar or rude. It was more just like being insane. And they were just deadpanning it. They were not breaking at all. And
Oh
it
my
was
God.
just it's kind of like, you know, when you're at school with your friends and you do this weird silly stuff, but you're children.
Yeah.
And then you see an adult who's getting paid to do that, and it's like, okay, like this guy figured it out.
Yes, that's the thing. It's like you have a certain mindset of what it's like being an adult. Like, I don't know, like, no offense to my parents, but to me as a kid, they looked really boring.
Yeah.
Like, super boring, the most boring people. I was just like, okay, that's what they looked like. And then you see Conan doing Conan things, or Jay Leno or Letterman doing their thing, and I'm like, oh, you can be a fun adult. That's what I want to be. I want to be like a fun adult, not like a boring version. No offense, love my mom and dad, but
They did get that beach house.
yes, they got the beach house, so it worked.
But I can remember being a kid and realizing just like my parents could have gone they could have moved, and I was like,
Yeah.
you guys are grown up, like why didn't you go to New York or LA? Like why would you stay here in London, Ontario and make your life here? This is not good decision making.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like, why London especially? Oh my God, you can roast them hard on London. You had the whole world, and you chose London, Ontario. Not even the real London.
Yeah. The other London.
It's why did they stay there?
My dad grew up there and just stayed. And then my mom was from a mining town in northern Ontario. So her mom was like, get out of the north. The jobs are drying up. She made a smart move. She upgraded, right?
Okay.
She went to a bigger city.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Bigger city, I guess. It's an upgrade. So, I mean, yeah, like for me, like a lot of people, sometimes when I was in Ottawa, like a lot of people would talk about moving and getting out. We got to get out of Ottawa. I got to go somewhere else. At the time when I was new to Ottawa, that was me moving. That's me going to a bigger city. Ottawa was that for me. But eventually, sort of, at least for me, I grew out of it, and I was like, I need to go somewhere even bigger, significantly bigger. But it is wild that it's like your parents could go anywhere and they went to London. Like even my parents, I'm like, they sit in Bahrain, and I'm like, okay.
Did they stay in the region they grew up in?
I think, yeah, for the most part, it's like Bahrain is very small.
So everyone's in the same.
Yeah, it's like, it's a very small country. So it's like they basically stayed the same spot. And I'm like, okay, if that's what you want to do, could have gone everywhere. You could have gone anywhere, but you wanted a beach house, you got one, so cool. It's not really my thing, but
Do they come visit you here?
they've tried once and they were successful. They made it all the way here, but it's tough because they've gotten so much older now. They're not like young like they used to be. Like they don't have the same energy.
Yeah.
The flight is insane. It's 12 hours there, 12 hours back. It's a lot. So they did try, and they were like, hey, that was fun, but we can't really do that every year. And I'm like, I will try to visit more often.
So did they like it here?
I think they enjoyed their time here. I mean, Toronto, we did with Montreal as well. They enjoy the city, like going to doing the tourism stuff, going to a city, going to shows. They did enjoy it. It's just that going all the way there, like Europe is not far for us. Like Middle East to Europe, there's so many flights. It's not that bad. I think it's like 5-hour flights or something.
Yeah.
This is 12 hours. It's crazy, and it's you got to take minimum 2 flights. So it's a lot, mentally
it's
exhausting.
like time travel.
Yeah. And it's like time travel. You're basically, I guess you're sort of stuck in like time, frozen, because you can't do anything productive. You're just taking one flight to the other, and then suddenly it's a whole day passed by and you're in the new country. So you sort of like lost a day of your life traveling, because you literally can't do anything else the day you're traveling.
Yeah.
Like, that's your day. Today, I'm in a plane. It's different. If you go to Europe from the Middle East, even for us, Canada, it's like the US or South America. It's not super far away. It's different. It's just one flight.
Yeah.
Usually it's just one flight. So it's not bad. It's very, very different when it's like a 12-hour going there, 12-hour coming back. So yeah, it's hard.
Did they get why you wanted to be in Canada? Or were they just like, what are you doing here, you weirdo?
I think they kind of got it. They get it, especially now with stand up. I think they get like, oh yeah, you can't do that here. Like they haven't seen my act, but they're like, I think they get that I just can't do that.
Do not come back here and try to pull this.
Yes, it just, you like what, like, I don't know, if they might end up beheading me or some shit. I don't know. It's like,
there like a lot, like there's like obscenity laws, I guess?
Yeah, like over here we have freedom of speech, I think, sort of. Do we have? Is that a Canadian thing?
Yeah, like the government can't put you in jail for your beliefs, for what you've said.
They can't do that.
They cannot.
Okay, so yeah, that's not how the Middle East rolls.
You can get in trouble with the government for what you've said.
And people have gotten in trouble for like political stuff they've said.
Yeah.
Like, I remember there was like a protest at some point in Bahrain, and they happen every now and then. I've heard this, I don't know for sure. I've heard like they found the people that on YouTube through YouTube videos. They found people that were protesting and they saw their faces and they figured out who they were, their families and all that, and they got in trouble. I don't know if they went to jail or prison. I don't have those facts, but I know they got in trouble just because they were on a YouTube video protesting. That wouldn't be a problem here, right?
Yeah, because you're legally allowed to demonstrate.
Yeah. So I don't think you're legally allowed to demonstrate.
Yeah. It's not a great place to foster a stand-up scene.
No. No. Not at all.
But it's funny because I feel like there's a lot of comedians who complain like they can't say whatever they want. And it's like, you can. Like, any bad thing you want to say, you can find a place where you're allowed to say it. But you can't say it anywhere, right? And you can't say it while getting paid by a sponsor.
Yes.
But,
yes.
Like, it's just funny because it's like, well, like, I got a place for you. Like...
Yeah. Like, I genuinely feel like you can say anything here. It blows my mind when I hear comedians say like, oh, you can't joke about that anymore. You can't joke about this anymore. Like, let's say if you have like a joke about lesbians and you have a really good joke about it. If it's a good joke, like, you can say it and you should practice it at an open mic. Don't go to a show. Like, practice it in front of comedians. You can still do that 100%. Like, it's not really, like, you also have to understand which mics you can do that in.
Yeah.
Like, there are mics where it's like, I don't usually go to them, but there are mics for sure that are like, oh, we don't allow these topics. Or if you say certain words as punchlines, they might, like, maybe if you say the word autism as a punchline or autistic as a punchline, they might be like, hey, you can't say that here.
Like, there's like the kind of thing of like punching down. Like, people don't like it when you're picking on another group.
Yeah.
Like, that has it worse than you. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So and then there's rooms where you can say anything at all.
Anything at all, because it's people went for that.
Yeah, it's like the room is made that way for better or worse. It's made so that you can say pretty much anything. And people get that it's just an open mic and you're trying to figure stuff out. But it's very, very rare that I actually feel like, oh, I don't know if I can say that. It's more like, I don't know if that's funny enough.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like, if you do it funny, you can say almost anything.
Yes.
Like, I remember like being at the, like, I want to say the height of my feminism. Like, not that I'm less feminist now, but maybe it was like newer to me. I was still a teenager and I was like, I'm a feminist and I'm serious about it.
Yeah.
And like my friend, there was this contest called like Out of the Blue, and it was sponsored by Labatt's, and they would like pick you up in a van and then like take you to a concert and you didn't know where you were going. And I
Yeah.
remember like my friend Steve making this joke about like what was gonna happen to you in the van. And I was like, I'd never heard anyone tell a joke about sexual assault before, and I would have told you that I would not laugh at that joke. I would never laugh at a joke about that sort of a thing.
Yeah.
But I laughed at it for like 20 minutes, and he kept riffing on it, and
Yeah.
it was so funny. But like that's because he's really funny, and he can get somebody who's not interested in laughing at a certain kind of joke to laugh at that joke.
Yeah.
You know, and he was one of the people, like when I did stand up for the first time, I was like, I need to tell Steve to go do stand up because, you know, like that friend that Seinfeld has that he thinks should have done it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But he doesn't want to.
That's fair enough. Yeah, exactly. It's like getting you to laugh at a controversial thing, like anything like assault. That whole category is like not even something that I want to go for.
Like I don't have a aim to see how controversial I can be.
Yeah, no.
But
like I think Matt Rife got some controversy when he had like I think he started the show, his Netflix show, the Netflix comedy special with a domestic abuse joke.
ew.
And there was some controversy there. It was a good special overall. Like I enjoyed it, and I wouldn't say it was like a killer one or anything
Yeah.
like that. It was just like, oh, okay, Matt Rife, it's his first Netflix.
Yeah.
Cool, good for him. I'm happy for him. And I'm always just excited to see what else he does. But because he did a domestic abuse joke to start, there was some controversy about that. When I saw it, I was like, okay, I don't think it was that bad for me, but I can understand maybe for other people it might cross some line. But also, he has so many women that are fans.
Yeah. And I
So-
think like the way I found Matt Rife was just going through TikTok, and his stand-up kept coming up, and he does a lot of crowd work, and he basically flirts with the audience.
Yes.
And it's really hot. And some people get mad because they're like, that's not stand-up. And I'm like, shut up. Everything is stand-up. Like, you know, if you're making the audience laugh, it's stand-up. But it could
Yeah.
also be a little bit sexy or a little bit controversial or provocative. Like, there's different styles of stand-up, and his is very flirty. So it's a weird choice to then want to throw controversial material into like what's kind of like a sexy vibe.
Yeah, I mean, that's him. It's his thing. And it's like his crowd work I feel like his crowd work might end up becoming like legendary.
Yeah. And he's part of this movement right now where crowd work is becoming its own kind of art, and people are loving
Yes.
it.
People love crowd work, and I think people are like, in terms of viral clips, virality and whatnot. I was listening to a podcast, and I think it was maybe Mark Norman's podcast, and they said at one point there was a point where pretty much any crowd work clip was doing well, but now, which happens to everything, it's only the good stuff that's actually gonna like get traction, which sounds great. I actually prefer that, as opposed to just posting any crowd work clip and getting traction. And it's like the way Matt Rife does it is wild, and because he sort of maybe popularized it even more, like crowd work, that now other people that are really good at crowd work are also popping up. I wish I could remember names. There's two names that I have in my mind that are people that are very, very good at crowd work. Can't remember them right now, but those people have become even more popular recently, and it's like, oh, have you checked this person's out? His crowd work is amazing.
It's Jason Rouse, is it?
Maybe, yes. I think Jason's
Okay.
one, and then there's another guy. He's like,
Because Rouse was the first person I ever saw do crowd work that I liked.
Yeah.
And like I was thinking you weren't mentioning him because he kind of came out a while back.
Okay.
Like he had, anyway, I guess when he came out, if you had said, do you like crowd work? I'd be like, no, crowd work
Yeah.
is lame. Because it was always like, hey, where are you from? Oh,
Yeah.
you're from Chicago? and then I make a joke about the bears, and
Yeah.
it was always bad. And Rouse was the first guy that he just like made an art of it, and we went and saw him at a club in Toronto, and I don't know, like the whole set was kind of in the crowd, and he found this woman. She was a Catholic school principal,
Yeah.
and he was sort of ribbing her like for like it was like 20 minutes of his set, but it was hilarious, and you could tell she loved it. So he's
Yeah.
kind of making fun of her, but in a fun way. And I was like, and I laughed like really, really hard the whole time. And that was the first time I really got that crowd work could be good.
Yeah, like I think the first one for me was Schultz. His crowd work, Andrew Schultz, like his crowd work clips
Yeah.
are super, super funny. And then after Schultz was Matt Rife. And I was like, when I saw Matt Rife do his flirty
Yeah.
stuff, I was like, oh, wow, you can do that. Like, that
Yeah.
blew my mind. And then I saw other people as well do it. But yeah, I realize it's so much more than the where are you from or are you guys dating. It's so much more than that, and I love crowd work so much. I love talking to the crowd. Like I before I got into stand-up, I love going to like a house party, there's a group of people, and I'm just riffing and joking around with everybody. It's so much fun when it goes well and the vibe's great. It's so much fun. And I'm like, I want to bring that part of me on the stage and make like just bring that natural part of me on stage. And I've been doing it more and more lately. It's tough. Sometimes nothing happens.
Yeah.
I was at a show with Greg Pallone recently, like Greggy, one of the Toronto comedian, really funny guy. I was doing crowd work. I got a couple of laughs, but I couldn't get much out of them apart from just facts about their lives. That's all I got. I barely got any laughs, and I did like 10 minutes.
Oh no.
And I just got a few laughs here and there. Like, all right, let's bring up your first comedian, and I was hosting. So I got off stage, Greg goes up, and he's like, did you guys just notice Marwan just like asked everyone a question, and he just got facts out of every single person here? That's pretty much all that was, and I was laughing. I was dying.
So his laughs were making fun of your crowd work.
Yes, and he got
Ooh.
a lot of laughs for making fun of my crowd work.
But that's yeah.
Yeah, so that's just sometimes it doesn't work, and there's nothing. So I'm just like, whoa, where are you from? Australia. Oh, kangaroos.
Nothing to say about that.
I got nothing.
No, but I think yours is usually good because like I can think of like when I did your show at The Real Jerk, I had a really good set, but it felt like everyone had a really good set. And I think it started with you did a lot of crowd work at the top and got the audience really ready. And then it was like everyone had, like you set it up and everyone had an easy time getting laughs after that.
Yeah, thank you.
So you are typically good at it.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Typically. That night, I don't know.
Not so much.
Yeah, it happens sometimes, but yeah, sometimes it's just like there's not much. Like one time a guy told me he was a police officer, and I immediately thought there was nothing there, but he was just such a down-to-earth dude that I talked to him just a little bit more, and we started vibing, and we got some stuff about him, and it turns out he like worked in like a jail cell area where he basically had to be like a babysitter for prisoners. And it was so fascinating, and I can't remember the exact jokes, but I came up with a bunch of jokes about it and about he's like a very dominant guy. He must be a dominant husband or something. And it just turned into a thing. But as soon as he said police officer, I was like, off the top of my head, I got nothing. It's like blank.
Yeah.
But sometimes something happens.
But also sometimes someone says something like cop and it's like you think of a bunch of things and you're like, maybe I shouldn't say any of these.
Yes.
Because you don't know, like, it's like maybe if he's your neighbor, you can
Yeah.
just start joking and see what happens. But like you maybe not you know nothing about him. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like when I remember at the height of it when the Ukraine-Russia just happened, and I would say, hey, where are you from? And they'd be like, Russia. And I'm like,
Skip it.
that's great. When did you come to Toronto? And I I'm just like, I don't know what to say right now, and now it's gotten a little bit more relaxed in terms of talking about that topic. But at the height of it, when it just happened,
Yeah.
everyone was like, "What do we say? Is that what do you like?" It was tougher for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Have you done crowd work?
I do a
Before?
lot because I'm always at Keys, and it's
At
such a small room.
Yes.
You have to do crowd work.
I've seen you at Keys. I remember I saw you at Tonight Bar, and I think the night after or 2 nights after, I saw you at Keys, and I was like, you know how pretty much every comedian or most comedians have like rooms where they're super comfortable in. I was like, Keys is that. It was almost like two different people. You were like talking to the crowd, and I was like, oh, she's like so chill right now. And I was like, the 2 nights before, you were like, you were doing your material, you're doing your bits, but it was very different. It was more like, I don't know if you were trying out new stuff, but I could tell like the level of comfort wasn't like Keys.
Yeah.
Like Keys was definitely more like, oh, you've done this room way more than, I think maybe it was Tonight Bar, maybe it was Salto, I can't remember. But it was
Yeah.
a different room, and I could just tell you did Keys so many more times. Like, do you do Keys a lot?
Yeah, I kind of got my legs there because
Okay.
like I did my first mic there. It's ironic because when I did my first mic there, I thought I was going to be murdered. Like it's a sketchy building. You have to go
Yeah.
into an alley, walk up a fire escape. Like
it's so sketchy.
it was weird. And yeah, so I thought I was going to get murdered, but then he liked my set. He invited me to come back. So then I just started going there. I could get stage time, and I kind of like grew up there, right?
Yeah.
And figured out how to do comedy and all that crowd work. Like even though my set doesn't depend on crowd work, it helped me. So like when I remember going to Yuck Yucks after like the first long stretch of kind of like being at Keys, and I'd been to Yuck Yucks before, and then I went back, and I just like I did so much better than I ever had. And I wasn't really talking to the crowd, but it was like from doing all this crowd work, it made me more dialed into the crowd. So I was able to like play to them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even really know how to explain it, but
You were able to play to the Yuck Yucks crowd, you mean?
yeah,
Or-
which
yeah.
was more of like a stage where, and they don't really want you to do crowd work at that venue as much, I think. So, or maybe just in the amateur night, they want to hear your material. So they're
Right,
like,
right.
don't go up and do a bunch of crowd work. They want to hear what kind of jokes you have.
Oh,
So I
really?
was trying to just do my jokes.
Yeah.
But even without talking to the crowd, if you've been doing crowd work, it like gets you sort of more dialed into them.
It does. It's like I don't know what's like the non-nerdy term to say, but it increases likability. It just makes you more likable if you can vibe with this person and this person and that person. And then maybe if you can, sometimes it doesn't work, but if you can make a joke that connects this person to that person, oh, this person's single, well, she's single too, or she's having a fight with her boyfriend, so maybe you can pounce on that after and like connect that. They just love you so much more. And now, because the likability is there, the material could potentially resonate much more. It might not, but I do find like percentage wise it just skyrockets. Like you went from like, I don't know, 70% chance of your really good material hitting to like or 60% to like 95% just because they really like you, they love your vibe. So I also noticed that if I like a comedian, there was this Lebanese comedian named Alex something in Comedy Cellar, and she was doing crowd
Like
work
in New York.
Yeah. And she was doing crowd work with me and my brother, and she was just roasting my brother, and it was so fun, so much fun, and we just loved her. I was like, anything she's saying, we're just gonna laugh our asses off because she won us over. Like that's it. It was just, even if what she said was okay funny, not killer funny, she won us over. That's it. So we're gonna love everything you say that night at that moment. So I do think it helps,
Yeah.
like, a lot.
For sure. I love Comedy Cellar. That's like the
Yeah.
best place.
I've only been there once. It was amazing. Mark Norman showed up as well.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh my God. I was like fanboy. Like, I did an extra longer cheer for
Yeah.
him. And then he was like, settle down.
I can picture him doing that. Yeah.
And,
I saw him at Danforth East.
Oh,
Comedy
me
Bar
too.
East.
Me too.
Yeah.
Was it last winter? Was it? Or
Yes.
okay, we might have been to the same show. Or like he had
It
like
was-
5 shows, but
Oh.
it was one of those.
It's been recently, and it would have been 2023, I think.
Yes, it was 2023, not 2024. I went to Mark Norman as well, and he had like 5 shows or something, and then they added like a 6th one.
Yeah, he's very well loved.
Yeah, he was just crushing, and it was interesting. I was on a train to Toronto or Ottawa, one of them, and one person was talking to me next to me, and we were talking about comedy, and they were like, "Oh, do you know Mark Norman? I love him." And I'm like, "Man, Mark is going viral," and I was like so happy that it's like, because Mark went viral not from acting or like sketch comedy. He went viral straight up from his bits,
Yeah.
which is, from what I've seen, is rare. It's not super common that you go viral from, like, you know, Abbas Wahab. Like, Abbas is one of my favorite
Yeah,
comedians
yeah.
in Toronto.
He's really good.
Excellent comedian, and he does a lot of sketches, and his sketches go viral.
Yeah.
And then, which helps his comedy. It sort of like feeds in. And he also does podcasting, specials. He's all over the place. But that's what I've noticed with like something like Kyle, Abbas, in terms of social media.
Yeah.
They do sketches, and the sketches help a lot. Whereas Mark is so interesting that it's pure stand-up, which is like not a common thing that I've seen, at least.
Yeah, actually, now that you say it, most people it's the sketches and not the stand-up.
Yeah, there's another guy he's Arab. He's like sold out theaters as well. His name is slipping my mind, but he also does sketches, and his also same thing basically. Sketches gone viral, and that helped his stand up. So it's interesting. I'm trying to think of other comedians where it's like it's just their bits that have gone viral. Like even Bill Burr.
Oh, you know who I watch from their bits is, oh crap. She lives in New York City, but she's Irish, and her name is.
New York City. Is it the tattooed?
No, she's an Irish girl, but she's just in New York right now, and her name's
Okay.
Katie. No, it's not gonna come to me.
There's so many.
But yeah,
names.
but she's like the one person where it's just like I see her doing her stand up, and then that's what I've been watching of hers.
It's interesting when you see that it's like it's just your stand up is so good. Like Taylor Tomlinson is someone where their
Yeah.
stand up and crowd work has just gone so viral. She's just so good, but she's also been doing it just
Katie Boyle.
Katie Boyle. Okay, I've heard of that name. I think she's on Don't Tell. I might have seen her Don't Tell. I might be mixing her with someone else, but
Is that a podcast?
oh, Don't Tell Comedy. It's like a comedy production house, and they put up a lot of like very famous people on their YouTube channel,
Oh, okay.
and they'll give you like 10 minutes, and they film it, and pretty much everyone that gets on Don't Tell goes viral,
Ooh.
because it's like the problem is getting on.
Yeah.
And also you got to be good as well, but like there's some people that have exploded from Don't Tell just by putting their best stuff under 10 minutes or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Don't Tell's pretty popular, and I don't know how you get to the filmed version, like who you have to talk to, but I know that you can get on Don't Tell in Toronto, but it's not the filmed version.
Oh.
So if it's not the filmed version, I'm just like, oh, then it's just a show. It's not as
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, anyway, it's just a thing. It's like a platform that helps elevate comedians.
Nice.
And people have gone viral from that. You know what sucks about getting viral on comedy is if you go viral and there's nothing to hook people in.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you have, let's say you don't have the podcast at all.
Yeah.
You just have one bit, one clip, that's it. It gets 10 million views.
Yeah.
And you have absolutely nothing else.
Yeah.
Kinda sucks. You will have your 15 minutes, but then no one will remember you.
Yeah.
And it really sucks because they don't have, if you have the podcast, you have something else, you have different like anchor points for people to latch on to. Oh, I want more.
So
of
they get
Karen.
really excited about that one video, but then they can just spend time going back through your old stuff, and then you keep putting more stuff out.
Yeah, but if you don't have old stuff, it's like I think Mark Norman and Andrew Schultz were talking about this. Mark Norman said, I don't think there was a point in me doing Conan and Letterman and all those, like the 5-minute set thing where they get 5-minute sets and on the talk show. And Schultz was pushing back on it, and he said, no, there's definitely a point to doing those. And he was like, no, because like my TikToks went viral. That stuff didn't really go viral. And he was like, no, because your TikToks went viral. People wanted more of you. They looked you up online, and then they found the Letterman thing.
Yeah.
It's like anchor points. So I thought that stuff was super interesting, that it's like, you might think it's not super important now, but if someone really loved your bit and really resonated with it, it's like an anchor point to other stuff, other bits, other clips. You're a special guest on a podcast. You're doing your own podcast. You're doing your own acting thing, anything, like, because that's a potential super fan.
Yeah.
So
you gotta be able to like deliver the whole package.
And if you don't have anything, it's like, okay, you blew up, you got 10K followers, and then no one watched anything else because you didn't put out a clip for like 6 months.
Can you imagine? You've got like all these followers and you just have to contact everyone you go. Like, we must create content now.
Yeah, basically. It's like, hey guys, let's get the ball rolling. It's kind of scary in a way where it's like, oh no, don't go away. Like,
yeah.
the attention is only on you for a little bit.
Yeah.
So
you gotta be ready when it comes.
yeah, it's
Anyway, thank you so much for coming on my show.
no problem. It's been awesome.
I've been chatting here with Marwan Alshafei.
Yeah.
And do you have anything you wanted to tell us about coming up, or anything to plug?
Sure. You can follow me on Instagram at Marwan Alshafei. And you can also check out my tour if you're on time for the tour. There's a local immigrants tour that I'm doing in Ottawa, Kingston, Montreal, and then there's another tour name it's called the Whitewashed Comedy Tour with Giga Thiga, Darren Leo, and we're going to go to Hamilton, London, and Guelph. Yes. So in Guelph, we're going to do some cow tipping. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but so I'm excited for that.
All right. And I'll make sure my London people know about it too.
That'll be awesome. Thank you. Appreciate
Thanks
it.
so much.
No problem.